artistic director here at Fringe North this season. I'm super happy to be back here on our live Fringe North Roundtable, which we're going to be doing once again this year, every Thursday evening until the festival begins on August 21st. So remember to tune in weekly and join us in the chat to connect, share ideas, and discuss everything Fringe North with us. Each week, we're going to have some exciting guests and topics from our amazing community of performers and creators. We're going to give us an inside look into both their lives as an artist, as well as what they're bringing to the festival this season. I am so excited to be joined this week by Samantha Buttery. Yeah, take a moment to say hi and introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Samantha Buttery. I live in Sudbury, Ontario, and this is my first year with participating in the Fringe North Festival, and I'm very excited about it. And I have a play that I have submitted to, that's my offering this year. And yeah, I'm excited to see what we can do and what's coming up. I've actually never even got a chance to actually attend a Fringe North Festival, so this is the whole thing is new to me, so I'm very excited.
Yeah, we're first of all, we're so excited to have you. I know you from some work that we've done prior, which I'm sure we're going to touch upon, so we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But we're really lucky to have you in the festival this year. I'm so excited to be able to welcome you up and work with you. We're going to talk a little bit about what that process this year is going to look like because we've got some exciting things to share about some of the collaborations that we are doing together. Before we jump into that, just again, I'm going to be keeping an eye on the live chat. So if while you're watching, you have any questions for myself or Samantha, please throw them in there. I saw even before the live stream started, we have a message from Isabella Fairchild who said, I'm so excited for Fringe. I'm new to the Sioux and hear so many great things already about the people around town. So thanks so much for that comment, Isabella. We're super excited to welcome you to the festival. Amazing. So, I guess first things first, let's uh let's dive a little bit deeper into what we can expect from you at the festival this season. And to contextualize that a little bit, I'm super excited to share with the audience that Samantha is going to be one of our EARP Emerging Artist in Residency creators. So we're going to be working extra closely together. Of course, we provide support for all our artists, but this residency really gives us a chance to dig deep into the creative process. And we were just really excited about Samantha's work, and we are just looking forward to working together. And for full transparency, we have only just started that process. We haven't really done anything yet. So this is like right at the very beginning of it. So I'm excited. Hopefully, we can have you on again near the end, closer to the festival, and we'll see what's changed and developed since then. But yeah, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that work and what people can expect.
Okay. So this play is a dark comedy play. It had a first look dramatic reading at Play Smelter in Sudbury in 2022, I believe, with Pat the dog. And it went tremendously well, which was great because I actually don't have um I didn't do a lot of playwriting really before that. I wrote one play prior to this. This is when I was still in university. So now it's a few years ago. But I ended up catching the bug. And so I started really enjoying that. So, because I'm a writer anyway, but that was just that I hadn't gone through that avenue and now I can't get it out of my head. So this play kind of began because of my playwriting class at Laurentian when I was there a long time ago with Matthew Haiti. And it's about two grave robber best friends in Stratford upon Avon, England in 1620. So it's the year after Shakespeare's died. And essentially what happens, without giving anything big away, the summary of that is that they are down on their luck in this grave robbing business, and they decide to try to grave rob William Shakespeare's grave, thinking there will be something of value to take, and they come to find there isn't. And in this confusion, people are like, there's a bit of a threat of them being caught in the caper. So to not feel slighted, by going through all this work, they end up stealing Shakespeare's bones instead of his belongings, which there's an epithet on his grave in real life that forewarns that if you do that, if you move his body from his resting place, then you're cursed. Then, you know, it's to deter things like this from happening, which is that's a historical thing. So it took that, and that kind of follows them. And now, you know, are they cursed? Are they not cursed? And that kind of follows them around. So that's the kind of that's the kind of material that's going to come from this play, is some sort of dark comedy.
Very cool. That's
Yeah.
super interesting. And I know I'm gonna there's a question in the chat that is also essentially what I was gonna ask next as well, which says what was your inspiration for the play that you're presenting? So what was um the the inspiration point for this work? And then also I'd be curious to add on to that. I know that you, as a creator, work a lot in that dark comedy, gothic type of realm. So I'd love to hear a little bit of what is the inspiration for working within that genre as well.
Well, okay, so to answer your first question, so the first play that I wrote was called Murder in the Back Row, which again was a bit of a whodunit clue murder mystery play with a cast of 16 characters, which is wild, but this was for class. So I wrote that, and coming to the end of that play, the idea for what remains, which is the name of this play, kind of came to me. We were like reading different resources, and I was doing things for class, and one of my personal, it was just funny because it was just performed in Toronto. Um, Personal favorite plays is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead.
Oh, me
And
too. Oh, that's amazing.
it's just funny that we're talking about it because it just had that big run in Toronto. I think it's finished now, and I wanted to see it.
Yeah,
I didn't get to see
I
it.
didn't see it either. Oh, I know. I'm so disappointed. It was there was some big actors in it too, wasn't it?
It was the
Like
Hobbits were in it.
the Hobbits. Yeah, it was like Dominic Monaghan and I forget the other one's name, but
Oh,
yeah,
Billy Boyd.
yeah,
Yeah, it was so sad. I tried to get
yeah,
tickets. But so that's just the timing is funny that we're talking about this. But I did that
yeah.
play for a different project in school, and I loved the way they were speaking. It's very like, I don't really know, and again, forgive me because I don't know the actual term for the way the dialogue is, but it's very like tit for tat. It's very quick paced,
Hmm.
funny dialogue. And
Yeah.
something about that was like, oh, I see the humor in that, and I like that, and that's kind of how I'm thinking about this. So that's kind of how it started. And the idea that this is a story that's happening in the background of something that already exists, right? Like the play already exists, but
Hmm.
now we're taking two characters that are actually in that pre-existing play, and we're showing this fictional story in the background. And something about that, I thought that was so clever. And it stuck with me, it stuck with me. And then that's kind of where this came from. I applied that to, well, Shakespeare is a real person. He actually died. This is a real place that he's passed away in. This is a real curse threat that exists. But now we're going to build a fictional story around it, and that's kind of become a stylistic thing that I apply now to almost all of my plays as like something true, and we're going to build something fake around it, true, and something fictional around it. So that's kind of how that came to be. And again, I don't know how that specific idea came. That's how the inspiration started, that specific idea. I couldn't tell you because it's like 5 years ago, or maybe we're encroaching on six. And
Mm.
but I think it must have been that I had been doing something in school with Shakespeare, or I had been watching something and it was just in my head, and the two ideas just kind of smashed together. I thought that's brilliant, and that's so funny because why would that? And I actually have somewhere like my original planning paper. I found it recently. It was like a really
Cool.
quick, just here's an idea, and then it came from there. And I remember when it first came to me, I thought this is gonna be so funny. And it just came from there.
That's
And yeah, and so I just kind of knew at the time, like, I'm not sure how it's gonna turn out, but I know it's gonna turn out to be really funny, and I'm going to like it because
amazing.
it's just, and and in that same avenue of gothic, that whole theme, uh, that's really just something I'm passionate about. I really love, like my favorite writer is Edgar Allan Poe. Like, it's just like
Mm.
who I am as a person. I really enjoy that. It makes me feel like, like I love like Clue and those kinds of, films and plays and stories and books. And it's really something that even if I don't intend it to come out that way, sometimes it just does. And most
Yeah.
of my stuff has that undertone. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll try something different. I'll step away, but those elements still come back. They still come back. It's just in me. I like really, to simplify it, I enjoy it. So I'm writing something that I would enjoy, and I'm hoping other people will enjoy it. And that's just kind of how it occurs, truthfully.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally get that. I feel like I have a similar like aesthetic style that things end up falling into no matter what the idea is. So I totally I totally get that. And I also just for people who don't or aren't familiar with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, you
Yeah.
just want to. It's such a good play. As Samantha said, it's the minor characters of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in the play Hamlet, and it's basically their misadventures outside of the scenes that you see in Hamlet, but then interwoven with the actual scenes and dialogue uh, that Shakespeare wrote. It's just so good. It's written by Tom Stoppard.
Yes.
So if you want to find a copy, then I definitely recommend it. It's one of my favorite plays. Like I'm so in love with that script. So any chance I
Awesome.
get to shout out that play, it's so I will take it.
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. I was curious because you mentioned you went to Laurentian. What did you study there, and does it exist still? Does the program exist?
Oh Lord.
Because that's
So
like we've talked about it, I think, before with some other artists on
mm,
the stream here, but I think people that aren't in Sudbury or in the surrounding areas don't know how big of a loss it was when Laurentian basically imploded. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as an alumni.
okay, I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I'm gonna try to keep it not
Yeah,
lengthy with it. Yeah, it was really sad. So and again, a while ago, so I might be, don't quote me. I think if I remember correctly, about 70 programs were cut. I believe
yeah.
it was a significant amount. And yes,
Mm,
my program was cut. So when I went to Laurentian originally in 2012, which is a long time ago now, I was originally signed up for the English Rhetoric and Media Studies program, which I believe still exists. I'm not sure, but that's kind of where I'd started. And then I decided to take a minor in communications, and that was the track that I was on for a while.
yeah.
And I believe it was my third year, because it took me a while to finish because, money. So it was a 4-year program, but I ended up finishing in 9 years because I paid for it myself. So it was a long process. Um,
Hmm.
so somewhere in there, I decided to take a elective in motion picture arts, so film, and loved it. And like I've always loved film, and but I didn't even know there was a program for that at Laurentian. Like it didn't,
Yeah.
so there was a screenwriting class, and I thought, oh, I haven't done that, so let's go into that class, and fell in love with it. It was just like it fits so well, and I had a really big knack for it, and it was just like, oh, I wish I could do this all the time and like forever, and just make that my career path. And so we did a lot of projects in that class, and a couple of us were speaking with our professor, and he just kind of went, what is your program, like what are you in school for? And I told him, and he's like, what, come to the program, like you belong in this
Mm.
program. I'm like, no, I do. And I am going to come over. And that ended up being how I moved into that. So I ended up dropping communications because I took it because someone said that would go well with English rhetoric and media studies, but I didn't really tend to do anything with it. So dropped that and was going to double major. It was a whole, then there was a miscommunication with myself and the administration. When it came time that Laurentian was cutting all these programs, I had one class left to do, which gave me my final 3 credits, and I was going to be graduating. And then they like cut everything. COVID happening, they cut everything, and I was confused, and we had to find all these people to get a hold of, and it was a bit of a, they gave me the runaround, talk to this person, talk to this
Yeah.
person. Eventually found somebody, and they pretty much said, okay, we'll take it to you know, our table of people and we'll discuss what we're going to do. And they said, we'll just give you the credits. That was the decision. We'll just give you those 3 credits. And I was kind of like, oh, all right then. And but then there was a miscommunication. They were going to offer me the major in English and the minor in film, which I actually
Hmm.
ended, which I was like, well, I worked towards a double major. And that's when they were like, well, there's no major in film, so there must have been a miscommunication somewhere because it's only a specialization, which is 60 credits, or a major, which is I believe 45 or something. Again, it's been a while. And so
Right.
they pretty much gave me an ultimatum. They said you could choose to take the major in film and the major in English and a minor in film, or drop English and take the specialization in film and take those
Hmm.
credits and apply them here, which broke my heart because I really worked really hard to get both, and it'd been 9 years, and I paid for everything myself. So really was hard for me. I ended up choosing the specialization in film because I knew they were closing my program, and I
Yeah.
was in the last one of the last graduates of that program, and it's harder to achieve that, and it was my career goal anyway. So it was a no-brainer, but it still was very hard to make that decision. And so I did, and they gave me I graduated in 2021. They gave me my degree, and that was it. Then the program just was gone, and they cut theater, they cut film, they cut all kinds of stuff. And it was really sad. It was, and we obviously didn't have a convocation because it was right in the beginning of COVID. So the whole thing was very kind of like you were building up to this great graduation, and a little bit
Yeah.
lackluster. So it was a sad time.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, my program is not there anymore, and I'm sad for it because it was a great program. It really was.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was so hard for the community when those cuts were made. I'm not from Sudbury. My family works in Sudbury, so I grew up back
Okay.
and forth between Sudbury and North Bay a lot. So, but even in North Bay, we felt the ricochets from Laurentian. I think the whole region did really, because there was a lot of great programs that you couldn't get anywhere else in Northern Ontario that now you can't get anywhere in Northern Ontario, and young artists and people in other professions are forced to go somewhere else and leave the city behind, and it's just expediting the already downhill trajectory a lot of the cities in the north are on. So it's yeah, it was devastating for sure.
Well, yeah, and especially since like I know that a big goal for a lot of us, is to keep a lot of northern arts up in the north, like artists work
100%. Yeah.
things like that. And so when you hear of or experience, like personally experienced it, but like a lot of people who have family or friends that go through something like that, it's really discouraging, and like to feel like, you have to leave and either go down south or go to
Yeah.
the States or go wherever because that's where work is, or and at the time, and it's starting to come back now, which is great. But Sudbury was really getting flourishing with a lot of
Mhm.
film, and the industry was starting to really flourish up here, and it was wonderful. COVID happened, which was a big strain on that. And then Laurentian, killing that program and killing all other kinds of programs, for like in my experience, my industry there, like that was a big hit. And that was
Yeah.
really upsetting. And so with every other program they cut, I'm sure there was some sort of loss like that felt as well. And in the arts community, especially, we said it's nice to keep people up here. So now, it was so sad. And I know people that went to school with me that are either no longer in the industry,
Mhm.
change career paths because of that, or because they had to move. People had to move town, like professors and students alike. Like it was very sad time. And I went back recently to pick up costumes for what remains because I borrowed
Mhm.
renting from Thornlow, and to go back in that building post-war is kind of what I
Yeah.
called it, but it was so spooky because it's so empty, and it used to be so full of students and teachers and classes, and it was so strange to go back. I got emotional going in because I was like, I haven't been here since before, and so it was really sad, and I do miss having those programs there, and I know a lot of people were devastated. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It was definitely really hard. And I hope that the city bounces back. I hope that the region keeps growing. And it's something that we're trying to do as an organization as well. And I know we're partnering with a few organizations like Pat the Dog slash Play Smelter, like Tamarack up in Tibbins, trying to
Yeah.
make sure that there is room for arts to flourish in Northern Ontario. And the things that we're trying to build here, I can speak to our festival in terms of arts education. I mean, this is what we're doing with the EARP program. Like, we want to have artists being able to have professional development opportunities and be able to get paid for their work and be able to like actually feel like they're contributing and growing a viable career versus being forced to leave. And like it's definitely a really important aspect of what we're doing at Fringe North, and I think a lot of it did come from the ricochets felt from Laurentian closing.
Yeah.
Um, and I will add, if anyone is watching and shares in wanting to support that goal, whether you're from Sault Ste. Marie or Sudbury or anywhere else in the north, or well, anywhere really, and cares about Northern arts, you can find our donation link below and help us continue to grow these professional development opportunities and educational opportunities for local artists and regional artists. Um, Speaking of uh, professional opportunities and educational opportunities, I'd love to talk a little bit about how we met in the creation unit. Um, for those that are unfamiliar, Play Smelter is an annual New Works festival that runs out of Sudbury. It's run through Pat the Dog by Lisa O'Connell and some other great people that help make it happen every year.
Yeah.
Um, they have recently started to um, well, I don't know how recent. I've got involved recently, so I don't actually I don't want to speak to their whole history, but from my experience in the last few years post COVID, they've really been trying to push for um, development opportunities for emerging writers and creators, and
Yes.
that is how we met. So I don't know if you want to speak a little bit to what that program was all about and how you got involved in it.
Yeah. So that was the Northern Creation Unit with, I think it was in 2022, I believe, or three? No, two.
Yeah, the Play Smelter was 2023, but it started in 2022. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. And that was the first of its kind. Like they hadn't introduced that yet. So we were part
yeah,
of the first one. And that was a I don't know how you would, it was like a virtual um workshop group, like weekly, nightly group that we would meet virtually, and it was artists from different northern communities. And it would just be, we're going to meet on Zoom and we're going to chat about arts. We're going to talk about projects that we're working on, you know, our experiences and how we do like the creative process and how we write, what our struggles are, and then we did exercises. I believe we did writing exercises, we did development exercises, and then we wrote, and then we had breakout rooms after, discussing and kind of so leaning on each other because writing is very isolating sometimes. And so that was a big difference for a lot of us. And then after having taken what we learned in our groups and then like apply them to our work, we come back and we would read or have, we would do like a dramatic reading online and then discuss after and have like really good constructive criticism going on. And that's how you and I met. We were both in there, and
sweet.
we got to meet virtually, and then I think we just met in person a few weeks ago. That was our
Yeah, I
first.
can't remember if we met at all during that. I don't know. We definitely didn't really talk if you were there for the 2023 like cabaret. I can't remember if you were there or
I
not.
was there. I was there, but I don't know that we really got a chance to chit chat.
Yeah, because there was a big cohort of us, so it wasn't the same kind of atmosphere. But yeah,
It
we
wasn't a
got to.
one-on-one vibe. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
group
Yeah,
related. Yeah.
yeah. But
So
we got to get to know each other a little bit better this year, which was a lot of fun. Uh,
yeah.
and yeah, thank you for sharing that. It was a really cool opportunity. I was glad to be a part of it. I was glad to meet you a whole bunch of other amazing artists. Some others have also been involved at Fringe North for other projects, which has been cool. Actually, Avery McMillan did their piece that they developed within that unit at Fringe North last year. So there's been another example of an artist going through that and then linking up with our festival. So it really just speaks to like we're such a big region in the north, but all of these opportunities are great for everyone. Like I don't think they are necessarily good for just like one little pocket of the region. Like you
Yeah.
said, the people participating in that program were from all over, and now we have all these connections from all different cities throughout Northern Ontario, and can come to each other's festivals and do work at each other's things and share and collaborate.
Well, I've noticed like, and that's true because I mean, and truthfully, like because of NCU, I mean, I have a lot going on this year, but this is the first year since COVID that I have a lot going on. And it's really like artistically speaking, and it's very nice. It's refreshing, actually. It makes me feel really good. And that's a lot of it is because of that unit, like people that I've met and people that I'm going to be working with, that you and I met, and like a lot of things is because of it really did provide like a lot of like friendships and a lot of like work relationships and opportunities. And like for example, like your piece was just done at Place Melter this year, and as
Yeah.
soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, we did, that was a piece you were working on in Northern Creation Unit. I have to see how that ends because I remember it and it was hilarious." And I went like I specifically went because I remembered that. And so it's things like that where I'm like, "Oh, that's, it's so nice to be able to take what we've learned or what we discussed and what you remember and then go forward and say, "Oh, I know that person. I remember that play. I remember when they were developing that." And it's lovely to see that full circle and like where that ended up going. So and, so it that was a very important, uh, group that we developed and I'm grateful for it. I'll very much so.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And like I mentioned previously, that's absolutely something we are wanting to do more of at the festival and are planning to do more of through Fringe North. So stay tuned for more information on things in that realm because we really value keeping artists in the North and giving them the skills to create um, very unique, special work. We have a really special community in Northern Ontario, and we don't want to lose them to the south because we don't have the opportunities to
Yeah.
provide. Great. I'm gonna go back to the chat because I've seen a few things come in.
Yep.
Let's see. Question. How did you come across the EARP program and what inspired you to apply?
Hey, well, I came across the program when I was applying for Fringe, and there were, and again, this was my first time applying really, and so I I ended up applying to both. I figured if I didn't get one, I might get the other one, and I was going to be happy with either. I really just wanted to be involved in the festival in some way, and I think at the time I was thinking they were completely separate. In my head at the time, I thought they were completely separate programs. I'm like, "Oh, one's for the festival and one's like like a workshop." But come to find
Mhm.
out, they're close. They're obviously very related because you can't have one without the other one, which was lovely to find that out because then we had our conversation and I was like, "Well, this makes me feel very supported because I again, I've never done Fringe before. I've never even been to the Sioux before. The whole experience is going to be brand new, and it's a very comforting. And the reason I applied was to really sharpen my whatever skills I already have, because as much as eh, I'm not a seasoned playwright. I am a seasoned writer, but I'm very much like I can always improve, always, always, always. And when I'm 80, I'll be like, I can always improve. I'm never, you know. And so it was very much like whatever support that can be provided to me, either with advice or otherwise, or like, anything. I'm just want to absorb like a sponge. And so that was really the reason, was to become a better version of whatever writer I am now. So
Yeah, amazing. We're very happy that you applied to both streams, and we can welcome you wholeheartedly. And I'm excited to welcome you to the Sioux too.
thank
It's
you.
be cool. You've never been before, so that'll be fun. Um, I was gonna say, yeah, for anyone who is a little bit unclear for ERP, it's been something that has been in development for the last few seasons, um, and has at this point developed into essentially working with artists and helping them develop as an artist, but develop a particular work in general, and then culminating with giving a spot to perform that work at the festival. It hasn't always necessarily been the case that it is always the case that someone in EARP will perform work at the festival, but it isn't always the case that someone is like um, has applied to the festival as well. Um, so in your case, it was great. Like you really you're able to kind of secure a
Kismet.
place either way. But yeah, so it will always culminate in artists having a place to present the work that is developed through the summer up to leading up to the festival. And then also to mention we have separate EARP slots that are reserved for production artists as well. So we do have some folks that are going to be learning some technical theater skills or producing skills, administration skills as well. So it's a really exciting program, and we really are hoping to keep artists in the North from all facets, like not just creators and performers, but also techies and administrators. And like we want to you can't make theater without all of these people. So
Yeah.
we want to provide opportunities for them all to develop their skills.
Yeah.
Great. We're gonna go to the next question I see. Um, dun, 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 dun. Um, let's see, I'm going to read this one. I'm curious as to how you capture the feel you're going for with a play within your costumes and set designs for dark comedies, and what's the process like in terms of the unique Gothic aesthetics? So I
Ooh.
guess, yeah, question in terms of the aesthetics of the play and how you capture that.
Well, that is a loaded question, and I love it. So because so what remains, like I said, it only had a dramatic reading before, which is if you don't know, is no set, no costume, just reading. So this is really the first time it's going to have any of that. So it's really from building up from nothing, and it's everything that I had up here and seeing what I can actually bring out. So what in terms of costumes, they have to be, and this is just, I mean, I, I'm this kind of person to begin with, but they have to be as close to accurate for the period as possible. And that was a big deal for me. In terms of the Gothic aesthetic, if we're going with costumes, it's all very it's I mean, yeah, it's all very dark and all very, just but I mean, with costuming, I'm more concerned with the accuracy, but with terms of set, uh, because we don't have a huge budget, I can't do exactly what I would like. What we're capturing with this, I'm hoping to do, which I will be discussing with you at a later date, is lighting. A lot of lighting
Hmm.
is to me anyway is kind of how we'll be capturing that mood is a lot of shadow and spotlight, lunar light, a lot of setting the mood with that. And in this, we're trying to do a lot of simple set. So I mean, this is a really simple play in terms of it's not a huge cast. And so and the sets themselves are very simple too. So it's kind of like, you know, a table and the rest is more background, and it's it's going to be more focused on the characters, what they're wearing, and the move of the light is going to come in and do that. A lot of the props are, again, they're very specific to the script. It's nothing extra. And again, I think with sound especially, like those moods, like those mood setters are gonna be key, especially for this play. And so right now, my director and I are going over the script and putting in our sound cues and what do we need to send Fringe and let them know this is what we need to be setting up. And a lot of yeah, I think for me it's gonna be heavy on lighting and sound. And some of it's budgetary reasons, some of the and some of it is just that that's how it's just gonna make that come across even more so. And I think and again, costuming is it's more just I want it to be as accurate as as possible because it's important to me that you get that feeling that you're actually there as much as possible with what we have to work with. So
Yeah, that's very interesting. I am excited to dig into all of the technical side of things that we're going to do throughout the summer. It's going to be really fun. Um, yeah, I'm not gonna. We'll this will be an opportunity. Hopefully, we can come back on the roundtable in a few months, closer to the festival,
yes,
and see how things have developed. But it's gonna be really cool for sure.
yeah.
And I'm excited to dig into it. I'm curious
Hmm.
how you landed on being passionate about the realism of the costumes, because I know sometimes when people take this kind of gothic approach, I think like a Tim Burton-y kind of aesthetic, it's not always grounded in realism. It's a lot of times very exaggerated or anachronistic, like out of place.
Yeah.
So what in you makes you want to really strive for realism?
I think it's because the story itself is so unrealistic. You know what I mean? Like the actual stealing of the
Yeah.
remains of somebody. There's well, at least for one character, there's no, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that.
Mm.
Just full steam ahead, we're gonna do it, and it works out, and there's all these like this capers and mistaken, like all those like things that you go, "Ah, that would never happen," or like you would never do that. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of where I kind of want all of that uh outlandishness and unbelievable, like stuff to come to be focused on, and everything else is a very believable simple set, and that's where and you're really taken with the story and the content and the comedy of the dialogue and the jokes, and because I think just the story itself is already so unbelievable, and it's very it's you're kind of bordering on, if you don't put it correctly, it can be very morbid. So with the correct lens,
Mm. Mm.
it, it's very funny. And so I think for me personally, and it's just that I really want the focus to be on that, because it's just that's the star of the show, really is that silliness, but also you buy it though, because it's what in the world is happening here, and so everything else kind of is the background to that.
Very interesting. So it's like you need something to hold it in reality, and the rest can be um, big and zany.
Yeah, it's kind of like, especially like, for example, like if you watch, this is gonna sound like it's out of left field, but if you watch like the original Halloween, like the film, Michael
Yeah.
Myers, and that, I mean, one of the things that they talk about is that, that's a very normal looking town. It's a very believable, this could happen to anybody kind of story,
Mm.
but then, and then when you start watching, it's kind of like, oh, what a horrific story that this person's killing these people, and it's this whole, like, there's some supernatural, but in general is very believable, and it could
Mhm.
happen to any town. It's kind of got a little bit of that where you're like, oh yeah, I recognize, I have a graveyard in my town, and that I all of this is very believable, but I don't know if I'd ever take somebody's bones and try to do all
Yeah.
these things, and so that's kind of where that comes from. But it's a lot of I'm obsessed with my own story. It's so funny, and I think that it deserves its spotlight, and everything else
Yeah.
is it's gonna take its own backseat. But yeah, that's kind of where that comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important to create an audience investment, but create more stakes. Like having that feeling that this could happen, like having some recognizability. Like I think that's why something like Halloween works, because it's not, if it was
Mm.
happening on like a spaceship, then it has less stakes because you don't recognize like, oh, this could be my own backyard or my own
Right.
street that I grew up on. So I think that's an interesting point about like being able to um, like see things that you know with a story that you absolutely don't know, but I think it helps like kind of bring the audience into that world a little bit more and
Yeah.
sell them on it. So yeah, that's very interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I also just wanted to note you mentioned about the comedy aspect
Mm.
being used as a way to like soften the morbidness.
Yeah.
And I don't really have a question on it, but I totally agree with you for myself as a writer. You've seen one of my plays, and I definitely use comedy in that way. Like the play that just was presented of mine at Play Smelter would just be way too sad if it didn't have the comedy aspects. So I also do that as a writer for sure.
Yeah.
I like have an interest in morbid or sad subject matter, but like I don't want to go full throttle into it because I don't want to like completely alienate the audience. Like I like the audience to have like a an enjoyment, not just like, leave depressed.
Yeah, no, I think like comedy especially like makes things so digestible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And enjoyable. And that's the thing, like especially with your play, like I had no idea how it was going to end or like, or what the direction was. And yeah, it ended up being like I when that occurred, the crux of that being it was kind of like oh, and then it brought me back in with a lot of humor. And I love comedy. I really do. And so I think I always find it interesting that just with the right spin on something, the right joke, whatever, it becomes a very digestible and oh, that's okay. That's funny, kind of.
Yeah.
It becomes more acceptable. And so it's fun to walk that line.
For sure. Yeah. And it depends what you're going for as a writer, because I've definitely seen plays and movies and really any type of art that is just devastating or horrifying, and they don't have that cushion for the audience.
Yeah.
But it really depends what you want to accomplish as a writer.
Yes, and I do think like, a lot more like dark or gothic themes. They go really well with comedy,
Yeah,
funnily
I
enough.
think so too. Yeah,
Yeah, and so that the marriage of those two things, just the juxtaposition of that, it's sometimes I feel like you can't beat it. Like it's so funny if it's done a certain
Mhm.
way. And I hope I did, what I was hoping to do. But like yeah, that's just I think they go really well together. So
I think there is a lot of comedy in morbidness in life, and people want an opportunity to be able to express that humor, because it's not always appropriate in like there's a certain ridiculousness in a lot of things that are tragic on their surface. So I think, yeah, giving people an invitation to feel a little bit of humor and levity in something is really important work.
and I do think that just inviting somebody into that space, they know they're supposed to laugh. I think it gives them that freedom to do it. 'Cause sometimes people are like a little bit, they might want to find the humor and kind of,
Mhm.
I don't know if that's appropriate. Or I don't know if I should be doing that. But you're giving the allowance. It's like, no, no, no. This is supposed to be funny. You're allowed to laugh at this. Please look at this in this, specific way, this comedic way, as opposed to just this very serious, this could be tragic. And so I think us allowing them to do that is a big difference. And that's also fun to see them be able to go, have a release to go, oh yes, okay, this is supposed to be funny. It's okay to laugh at this.
Yeah, it makes me think of like, I mean, that's always been the idea of theater. If you go back to some of the original classics of Western theater in ancient Greece, it was also an invitation to come in and feel catharsis, either in like a tragic catharsis, like being able to, sit and experience something real and tragic and have the freedom to like kind of be outside of it, but like feel and express these like deep hidden emotions.
Right.
Or there was also the comedic plays in ancient Greece as well that like often made light of very taboo subjects that people would
Yeah.
not be able to, approach outside of the theater, but it gave the community an opportunity to get together and like, just be and let out their emotions in a very real way.
Yeah, and I do think being in a space like that with other people, like in a group like that, and then everybody's kind of,
Hmm.
participating, experiencing that, it makes you feel,
Yeah.
I think it makes people feel more inclined to participate and laugh out loud. And because we're all experiencing this, it's a bit of a unity camaraderie thing that you get to feel in that moment, especially when it's something comedic. It's everyone's laughing, it becomes infectious, and you're laughing, and it's a really nice communal experience that you get to go through. So I
Mhm. Yeah, I also find as a viewer, I often laugh way harder at things when I'm like in a group of people. I don't often watch things and laugh very hard to myself if I'm like at home watching a movie or something. But if I'm in like a movie theater or an actual theater, then I'll laugh way more. So yeah, there is something about like being with that community and all being in it together.
yeah, it's something participatory, like, just we're
Yeah.
all doing it together, and it feels good. And I don't know. Yeah, again, I can't, same way, I can't put my finger exactly on it, but
Mhm.
you just have that in you to really do it together, and all laugh together, and it feels really good. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Um, I'm noticing the time, and I'm gonna wrap up shortly, but I wanted to take one last question from the chat, which was asking how long did the creative process take while in the creation of your play? Like what did the development look like? Like what's the creative timeline, I guess?
It was a long timeline. So that's a good question. So the initial idea came in 2019 when I was in the class. I started kind of planning it out around then. COVID happened. It was way off my radar. Um, and then in 20, like closer to the end of 2020, I started kind of going, oh, you know what? I kind of want to pick that back up, and so I
Mhm.
started writing it. And then 2021, I went to Florida. My husband lives in Florida. We were just talking about that. And I was visiting, I ended up staying a week longer than intended to because I ended up getting COVID. And so I had to stay a little bit longer, but I had a week to just sit in the house because he had to go back to work. And so I thought this is a great opportunity. I wrote the rest of the play while I was there. So that took, I got home, I did revision, 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 revision. And by the time I got to play Smelter to get the first look done, it had been 3 years, I guess, or maybe 3.5, I guess, from the point of coming up with the idea to the point of it, people looking at it. And then and I got to hear it out loud for the first time, and it came to life for the first time, and hear people laugh, or get jokes, or see where they land. And yeah, and it was yeah, for me. I don't, and again, I don't know if that's a long process for anybody else. For me, that felt long because I had the idea so long before that. And usually when I have an idea, I start getting right into it, but it took a while to let it sit. And I had the general structure. I didn't have anything else other than this is what's going to happen. These are the funny points that I think I'm going to work in there somehow, and these are the two characters, the main characters. I have their names, I know what they're doing. That's it. And then everything kind of started filling in. But yeah, the creative process looked a little bit sporadic at first, and then as soon as I got the groove, it just shot off. Like I was almost like I couldn't keep up with how excited I was to keep writing it. And that was a very unique experience because sometimes I get really frustrated, but that was a very exciting experience. So
Yeah, absolutely. Comment here that said good tea takes time to steep, which I think is very
yeah.
true.
Yeah, no, that's very true because again, like this is happening, like, again, even like a few years after the dramatic reading. So even a bit longer, I guess, if you want to include this little bit longer than 3 years to get to this point. So maybe 4 or 5 since
Yeah.
the birth of that idea. So
Wow.
it's been sitting for a while, steeping
Awesome.
for a
Well, that's
while.
so exciting that we're gonna see it at the festival. I'm
Yes, hope everybody
Yeah,
likes it.
I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
Good.
Great. Um, well, before we wrap up, I usually give a little bit of an opportunity if you have anywhere where people could follow you or anything on social media, or if anything people should, stay tuned for. Just, I'll give you the floor to share anything you want to plug.
Okay. Well, I can be followed, I guess, on Instagram at find_direction, which is my Instagram handle. I post usually anything that comes up artistically, I'll post it on there. That Instagram is reserved for anything I'm doing artistically speaking. And up until now, it's really just been family and friends and like, collaborative people that I'm collaborating with. But if anybody else wants to follow me on there for whatever reason, feel free because I do post about that stuff. I don't have anywhere else you could follow me at this time. Um, and anything else that I'm doing artistically this year is so far is not a project of my own. I'm working on other people's projects. I may, God willing, if I get what I'm looking for, or maybe shooting in the fall, film related that I've written. And if that does happen and everything goes great and it gets accepted, you may be able to watch that at Cinefest, hopefully in the years coming up. But you can follow that on Instagram. If it comes up, it'll be there.
Very
So
cool. Oh,
fingers
that's
crossed.
super exciting. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Great. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. This has been super fun, and I hope we can welcome you on again, and people can see the final product of this summer worth of cool work we're going to do together.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I
Yeah,
will I would love to come back on at some point if you want me to come back on.
amazing. All right. And thank you everyone for tuning in and joining us tonight. Merci, miigwech, gracias. And just a reminder that Fringe North 2024 this year will be from August 21st to the 25th. You can check out our website and all our social media channels in the description below for more information about Fringe North. And if you want to support all of this cool stuff that we're doing here as a festival, as an organization, including AARP, you can consider donating, and you can find that information below as well. Every dollar counts, every bit of support counts, and we're really grateful for anyone who can help. Um, we will be back next Thursday evening and every Thursday evening until the festival with another live stream. And we cannot wait to see you then. Thank you so much and have a great night, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.